My testimony is probably going to be a little different than what you guys are usually used to, as I actually didn't have a crazy turning point where I was just like, oh my goodness, the God of the Bible is really God or anything like that. I've always known that the God of the Bible is God. It's more so just the actual events of my life story and then how I eventually ended up taking the Bible and taking Jesus seriously. There's a few different places I could start, but essentially I did grow up for most of middle school, and the first year of high school I actually did go to Catholic school. I don't consider myself to be Catholic anymore. I consider myself to be just a non-denominational Christian for the most part. I think that's, if I had to put a label on it. But so, growing up, I knew the Bible. I knew what different sins were. While at first, when I was a young teenager, I tried to take all of that seriously. Like, I would make an honest attempt to not sin, make an honest attempt to not do this or that. Sometimes it would be like, oh, I could do this, but I can't do that. Trying to make like your own rules and whatnot. But no, I now know that I'm older. I'm 25 now. I know that I'm older, that it's important to take the whole Bible seriously. Now I have read the entire Bible, and I kind of base the foundation of my faith on that and to not compromise. So I already knew all of that growing up, so it was pretty easy when I did start taking Jesus seriously. That I was like, well, I already know this, I already know that. But a lot of the things in the Bible still did come as a surprise to me. I was like, whoa, this is super interesting and cool and awesome that all this stuff is in the Bible that I never really learned about when I was younger. There was a period when I was younger where I was trying to take the Bible seriously, trying to take God seriously. And then when I turned when I got to be as I progressed, I started to compromise. As I got older, I started to compromise more and more on the Bible. But I kind of consider when I was 17 to be when I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna be not taking it seriously. Even if I would still try in some aspects, I really wasn't taking it too seriously, and I was just involved in doing bad stuff. But the thing is, even through me kind of not taking the Bible seriously, and even through that and not really trying to follow the rules in the Bible and God's commands and all of that, I still prayed to God quite often, probably very often, regardless of that. So it was just kind of, looking back, it's kind of a weird place to be in, but I was there anyway. And I actually did identify as transgender for a little bit too during that period for a few years. I did nearly the whole shebang. I did the hormones, I did laser hair removal, electrolysis. I did all of that for years, actually. I didn't have any surgeries or anything, but I actually did go through a whole legal name change. So that's pretty interesting. But I think that name change process is part of my testimony in a sense as well, because how my name is Genesis right now with a J, that's actually not what I was initially going to change my name to. And so just to make this clear before we proceed onwards, so the name on my birth certificate that I was born with, you could say, is Brandon, and then I changed my legal name through the court, through the DMV. So the name on my driver's license and my state ID is Genesis. Now, real quick, you guys can call me either, right? Just the way I view it is just hey man, one's on my birth certificate, one's on my ID. They're both my name. They're both technically my name. I don't really mind anymore which one that I'm called. It used to be a big deal to me back a few years ago, back when I was transitioning. I really wanted nothing to do with the name Brandon, but now that where I'm at right now, I'm just like, either is cool. I have friends that call me this and I have friends that call me that. It's just kind of cool. Honestly, it's kind of like, people like, and then like some people like just like have names, like how some people with the name like Robert also go by Bob, or like Billy and William. It's just kind of like, it's just Brandon and Genesis. It's just like, I kind of have my own. So that's just kind of how I view that. But what's interesting is I actually never intended my name to be Genesis. No, I actually had the court paperwork. I had the court date set up for me to change my name to something completely different. No, I wanted to name myself Leaf, and that was my initial plan. But what's interesting about that is kind of how, so I believe this was in 2022. Yes, this was in 2022 when I had the court date set up to change my legal name to Leaf. And I was literally just like laying on my bed, looking up at the ceiling one night, and that's when the name Genesis came to me, with a J specifically. Or maybe I was like, okay, it could be Genesis, but with the J. But I don't know, but the J had to be there. I was just kind of like, okay. I was like, okay, like I guess I'll do Genesis then. So that's what I made my name to. And now, in hindsight, it's interesting because the name, when people ask me my name and I say Genesis, numerous times now that has opened up to like Bible conversations happening. Like, oh, Genesis, like the first book in the Bible. Like, yeah. But just not spelled exactly the same. And conversations about the faith. So this name has opened doors to conversations about Jesus. So I have nothing against this name. Once again, you can call me this or that. I have friends that call me Brandon. I have friends that call me Genesis. Truly, call me either. Like, either or works. So that's interesting. So I actually did end up detransitioning about a year ago now. It's been over a year now, for sure. After I turned to Jesus and after I started taking the Bible seriously, I was super adamant about not detransitioning because transition was a huge part of me at the time. And it was just, I didn't think that I could live without it. I didn't think I could ever go back to not identifying as transgender. I didn't think that I could ever go back. So I was super adamant about not detransitioning. So after I started picking up the Bible and reading it, I made my goal to read the whole thing, and I eventually did, but probably about, I'm going to say 3 to 4 months after I picked up the Bible was when I started to pray and ask for comfort, like, hey, like if I'm supposed to detransition, if I'm supposed to do that, please let me do that. If I just didn't think, like, it's just crazy because when I was transitioning, man, like, it was everything. I didn't think that I could ever live without it, like, at that time. But now that I'm without it, I'm a lot happier now after I detransitioned fully. And, like, as I said, I did the whole shebang. I did voice therapy, I did hormones, I did the other procedures like electrolysis, but no full surgeries. But I did do a lot, and I did take it pretty seriously. What's interesting is I did have a consultation scheduled back in, I think, 2023, to get a surgery done. And the week before the consultation, which I scheduled a year in advance, and the week before the consultation, I got a letter from my insurance saying, hey, we're not going to cover this. So at the time I was like, well, like, what the heck? But now looking back, I'm just like, man, like, I'm very glad that didn't go through now. Like, such a huge relief. I'm so glad that God did not let that happen. Glory to God. I'm so glad that I didn't follow through with that. Yeah, but the whole detransition process was really smooth, actually. It kind of just happened, honestly. Like, from this, like, I was super set on transitioning. It was like everything to me. I thought I could never live without it. And then, like, literally, it was the most peaceful process detransitioning. Glory to God, it just happened essentially, where I just stopped taking the hormones, I stopped taking the testosterone blockers, and I just kind of let things play out. Then I started to tell people at like my job and my friends, like, hey, I know I was transitioning, but I'm not anymore, all that kind of stuff. And there was a lot of kindness with that. So I really appreciate that. A lot of people were really kind about that. And I wasn't too sure how people would react. I wasn't sure if I was gonna like lose friends or if I was gonna have any like tense confrontations over that. But for the most part, I think we're good. As of right now, I haven't had any like really tense interactions about that. And I'm not too sure how many people just kind of like silently removed from my life. But I can definitely tell you that there wasn't anything like super tense interaction about that, like, oh, you're Christian now, like that has not happened yet. And I only wish the best for my friends, of course. I only want the best for my friends. I would love if all of my friends could just come in and embrace Jesus and embrace the path that he has set out for you, the way that Jesus kind of came and radically transformed my life and radically made me more comfortable with myself and who I am and the person that I am meant to be. I'm really comfortable with that right now. The point of this video isn't to go into strict detail about like how I felt when I was transitioning or why I did or all of that kind of stuff. Maybe I can make another video on that in the future, but for this one, I just want to focus on the testimony portion of it. But if you guys do want more details about the why I transitioned, how I felt during it, and all that kind of stuff, definitely let me know in the comments, and maybe I can make one of those in the future. I just kind of want to say right now that I'm really happy. I'm content. I'm content that I did detransition. I think that it was the best choice. It's just kind of interesting because for so long I denied who I was, and now I'm fully embracing that, and I feel like I'm most aligned with who I am and the person that I'm meant to be now more than I ever was in my entire life, even before transitioning and before detransitioning. Right now, I feel like I'm the most authentic version of myself, and I would love if everyone can embrace Jesus the way that I have. It just feels so natural, and it's amazing. And maybe I can go into more detail about that in the future. I went from being a lukewarm believer that compromised on a lot of biblical values, kind of made sin a huge part of my lifestyle, and really just didn't take Jesus super seriously, but I was still praying, and then I had this radical transformation where now I consider myself to be a true Christian.